Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I'm finally getting around to doing a quick video on specific bike tools. And these things are going to be on the mobile side. There are kind of two classes of bike tools, those designed to basically live in the shop and those that are designed to go on the road or in the mountains with you. And I thought I'd go over the portable ones, the ones you carry with you, and some of the things that I've learned over the years, and some of the kind of novelties of the past. I saw on Catus Maximus's channel not too long ago, he actually did a video on one of the very early park tools that looked kind of like this, except it was the metal housing. Might have been made by Snap-on, but it actually was just a few Allen wrenches and a screwdriver. In the old days, the simplest bike tool I ever had, this isn't it, I couldn't find it, but it was basically shaped like this, and it had a 6mm on one end and a 5mm on the other, and that was enough to cover most adjustments on say a mountain bike in the 80s or early 90s. Then it started to get a little more complex. So these are some of the portable tools, and they do range from very simple. You've got a 3, 4, 5, 6, and a screwdriver, a Phillips number 2 on this. And that was enough for most things till we got into suspension, disc wheels, and disc brakes, excuse me, and a few other kind of fancier things on bikes, different crank designs, etc. Then we moved to something like this. You've got slotted, you've got the T25 Torx, you've got a number 2 Phillips, 65432, and maybe 2.5, or what is that? 3, 2.5, and 2 for these little Allens here. It also jumped up to an 8. We started using that for crank bolts instead of a 15mm actual bolt. Now it's a 8mm hex. And this one has a chain cutting tool in it as well to pop out links. That's critical. As well as probably an 8 and a 10 in kind of a wrench here. This design's not bad except for a couple of things. One is these have to be long enough, and you have to be able to get them in the right angle where you can grab the fastener. Sometimes they have a little bit of trouble. Bottle cages can be a problem. Derailleurs and seat posts are no problem, as are generally handlebars. But sometimes, like crank bolts, this may be too short. Depends. You'd want to try it before heading out. Chain cutters are great. This one's part of it. Some of them are in 2 pieces. And the other thing is sometimes you need 2 tools at once. In this case, you're stuck. It's all in one. In fact, almost all of these are all in ones. This one here, this big park tool, actually does come apart. And these 3 pieces here form 2 tire irons, pulling tires off. These don't really help as much for getting them on, but might save you. Here's the chain cutter. It does come off separate, and in fact uses the 5mm hex or Allen to actually run the plunger there. Here's the 8, and they build it into the 6 as an actual socket. You don't want to lose it. Same setup there. Added a few more things, a few more sizes here with the 8, the 9, here's a 10. They threw a knife on there. This is a spoke wrench for straightening a wheel should you bend it, and then a slotted screwdriver, pry bar, etc., and a couple of smaller hexes on the edge. It's a pretty big tool. I often carry these in my vehicle for bike servicing, but I don't generally carry them on a trip. This is an old school Ritchie here. For a while, Ritchie made tools, and I think he called them, they were like the CPR and then a number. And the number dictated the number of tools. So this is a 14, so there are 14 different tools on here. It's kind of a neat design. They were ultralight. You've got a chain cutter here. You've got your 8, you've got your 15 crank bolt, 10, 6, here's your 5 or your 4 there, you're slotted. Here's your 5 on this end, and then down to a 3 here, 2 spoke wrenches. Anyway, it's kind of a neat design, but it's really awkward to use, and it doesn't fit in a lot of places, and it hurts your hand if you have to apply much force. But it is kind of cool, and they had a handful of them. I almost wish I had the whole set. Maybe someday I'll just collect those for fun. But that was kind of a neat tangent. Park makes this one. This is about as simple as I would go today. You've got your Allens, your small slotted, no Phillips on this one, and then it has probably an 8, 9, and 10 because this is a single side. This one's a double side, so it actually has 2 different sizes. Can be real handy, but it doesn't fit in a lot of places. Kind of an updated Park tool here, plastic with 8, 6, or 8. Maybe that's 10, 8. That's huge, yeah. So we got 6, 5, 4, 3 on this side, and 8 and 10 on this side. So pretty good size if you've got 10 millimeter bolts and some big cranks or something like that. Here's a surface. This one is a 2-piece. It's got 1 tire iron, spoke wrench, couple of nut drivers here. One of those is used for this chain cutter here. 5 looks like there. 6, 3, and 2 tiny little screwdrivers on the end for what that's worth. This is one of my favorites. This is about as simple as a folding tool as I'd go. So you've got your 6, 5, 4, which are the most common, and then you've got a kind of a combination, sort of a slotted, maybe an angled Phillips, kind of nod to Leatherman there, and your T25. But this is really tiny. So it's easy to carry, and a lot of times makes for some of the quick adjustments of the things that you might need to really adjust out on the trail. That's about it. Here's another, I think this is a Blackburn maybe. And this one, again, kind of a pretty basic. So if I was getting one, I do like the Crank Brothers and the Specialized. Specialized got kind of overkill here. It's kind of neat to see all of these things. It includes some additional stuff, a little spacer here. If you're working with disc brakes, a big kind of screwdriver, pry bar, bottle opener, chain cutter, another kind of it's like a feeler gauge. It's designed to when you're adjusting the spacing and disc brakes, but out on the trail you're pretty crude with it. Different Allens, large and small. This thing, it's got a cover over this one. It can pop out, so you've got an Allen there. You've got a driver here. You know, they're trying to push a lot of tools on this, and then these things, which are, they might save you, but they're not easy to use. These kind of combination nut driver tool things. But anyway, these are some of the different bike tools I have. I've probably got more floating around. What I would recommend, you can get by often with some very simple tools as long as they're long enough. So try them in different fasteners, and you can get enough torque on them to make things safe. A little one here, if I was trying to do handlebar bolts, you know, I might be at the maximum of what I'm capable of holding onto this thing. You don't want it to bust, but in many cases you have to have things. There are some cheats. You can tie off cables to hold your bike in one gear if you bust break a cable or a connector or something. You can pound things together with rocks, bending metal, in which case you can get out. You've ruined it, but you might be able to get out, like pounding a crank back on and bending it. I've even seen people go so far as to like fill flat tires with dirt or pine needles, just enough so they can continue to ride. So there are a handful of kind of like emergency fixes, but it's so much easier to just learn how your bike works and then have a few of the proper tools. If you don't know how to use a spoke wrench, don't use one, because you'll probably make things worse. We don't call it spoke tightening. It's adjusting, because it's kind of a tension. So you've got the wheel, you have the dish of the wheel, the side to side, you've got the roundness of it. and you've got the even tension. All of those things come into play. So generally you don't mess around unless you've broken a spoke and you've got to get the brake back aligned, you know, to ride out. But anyway, I do find that the innovation in bike tools is pretty cool. So I like following what comes out new in the bike tool world. But as bikes get more complex and finicky and higher performance, you know, we move away from just simple crude tools to some pretty specialized stuff in order to get the adjustments we need for that level of performance. And of course now there's even more advanced tools for very specific things, especially shocks that sometimes we carry. But anyway, thought you might find that interesting if you like tools. So with that, Doc out.